Hi guys, Clown here. In this video I'll discuss how to take your steering gearbox out of your car, how to install it, put a new one on, and how to remove and install the Pitman arm. So this particular car is a 91 Firebird GTA, and these will be the exact same for any older type of GM car, Buick, or Fords, I believe also. A lot of old cars, but they don't have a rack. It's basically a steering gearbox. This will be exactly the same for anything 82 to 92 Camaro Firebird also. It's the exact same setup. One thing also to note, this is a power version. There's also they also do a manual version. They put like a manual S10 gearbox into these cars. But one thing to note when you do that is when you set everything correctly, you have to go inside and take a steering wheel off and put it back straight. That's because the ratio inside is different. That's one thing to know when you do that conversion. Well, anyway, here what you want to do is let's just fast forward a little bit. When you reinstall this, and you have everything like this back on. There's two ways of doing this. You basically want to put the steering Pitman arm in the middle. Now what I mean by that, you could have it on the floor of the gearbox and put a vice grip here and turn it lock to lock and count how many times it turns. This particular one's 3.5 turns from lock to lock. You count this side over here, not the Pitman arm side. So you turn the vice grip, then you put it, in this case it's 3.5, in the middle will be 1 3/4 turns. So once you meet 1 3/4 turns, that's where you want to set it, and you put it on the car, and this Pitman arm should be facing the driver. You can also do it on the car, which is the way I like to do it. You connect this back on to the shaft over here, and you go to lock. You have somebody in the car, or you could just push the Pitman arm. You mark it here, and just count all the turns by pulling the Pitman arm, or have somebody that's lock. I have this disconnected, that's why it's leaking, in case you were wondering. Always have your little drip pen underneath. Okay, so that's lock to lock. You count this, it'll be 3.5 turns. And what you want to end up with is turn in 3/4, which is right roughly around there. You can see this is pointing towards the back. There's only one way to put this in, pointing towards the back when you have it off. So there's, I think, about 4 different ways this could go in, but this is one way. You know, only one way it'll be shooting straight in the back. All right, so that's how you put it when you put it back on. Now, these have a cover on them, so basically you take the cover off. There's a nut in there. Sorry, there's a bolt in there. What you want to do is you take that bolt off. Let me do that for you. Now what you want to do next is, sorry about that, that's my air compressor over there working. What you want to do next is you want to put a pry bar in here between the coupler collar and the shaft where the splines are coming out of the gearbox. So you put that in there and you just push it back. And it comes right off. Now one thing to note is when you put this back on, also, make sure you're wearing your goggles. When you put this back on, there's a flat spot over here. You want this flat spot, the rest has splines on it, on the shaft. You want that flat spot to go in the flat spot in here. Right? There's a flat spot in here, so you just line that up, you pop it right in. Or else you're going to be there forever trying to put that in there. Alright, next thing is the power steering lines. Sorry if you didn't hear that, my air compressor was working. There's a flat spot on here, and there's a flat spot in here in the coupler. Over here there's splines and a flat spot. You want to line up the flat spot in the coupler over here. And once you do that, you just pull it in and out. Now over here, right there, I don't know if you can see that, it's off camera a little bit. You spray some WD-40 in here on the shaft, all the way up here. Because sometimes you move this up and down, it's very hard to move up and down. So once you can pull it out, spray some in there, move it back and forth in there. I'll show you when to take the camera off. Anyway, remember, line it up here and there. Once it's lined up with the flat spot, you get yourself one of these bad boys, and you put it on the coupler. Make sure everything's lined up. You start whacking it, so it can go in. It'll seat right in. But once it seats right in, then you put the bolt back in. Also, make sure I put red thread locker on this bolt because you don't want that coming off at all. All right, next thing, I already took. Let's see what line I took off. Sorry about that. I already took off the low pressure hose. There's two hoses here, high pressure hose and a low pressure hose. The low pressure hose, you'll know it's because there's rubber on it. The high pressure hose on the other side. Now that is a, actually let me put this back here. That is an 18 millimeter nut on top. And make sure you use a flared line wrench. Now the reason you want to use a flared line wrench on these lines over here is because you can't, if you put a regular open end wrench here, you risk the chances of stripping it on top. So you always want to use a flared type of a wrench when you do that. So these are already loose. I took this one out already. So you just crack it open, take them out. Just move these out of the way. Now you have 3 bolts holding this to the frame of the car over here. So you gotta go on either side and undo those, and I'll show you what that looks like. Also, before you do that, make sure there's somebody here, where I'm gonna let it fall and go into here, onto my drain pan. Make sure somebody here is holding it so it doesn't fall down and break, and damage something else. Now let me show you over here what I was talking about, where you need to put some WD-40 on. Take you guys off this thing. Sorry about that. Right here. This is the top where it goes inside the car. You follow it down. Over here, there's a collar that this goes in and out of. In here, you would spray some WD-40 so it's just go in and out nice and smoothly. Sometimes that gets stuck over there. It's really hard to pull it to go back into the shaft over here. Remember, there's a flat spot in the shaft right there. That goes in the flat spot in the coupler. In here, there's a flat spot when you put your finger. Not the open end side. There's a flat spot inside of that. All right. Now let me go on the other side and undo this, and I'll show you how that looks like. Please bear with me because I'm on a one-man show over here, one-man clown show. Let me take my air tool off. Now, if you're not as lucky as me to have air tools, it's okay. You could always use. Hold on a second there. Let's undo this. Put my air gun on. And we'll go back to business here. And what you need here now is you need a 16 millimeter socket with a U-joint I'm using. I'll bring you guys back up here in a second. Alright. Now in here, I don't know if you can see that. Let me get in there for you guys. You see this little bracket thingy over here? I don't know if you could see it too well. It's a little hard to show you. Let me see if I can get the right angle. There's a bolt in there and about 4 bolts here that hold this into place. I already undid it. Okay, I already undid it. So all you gotta do is just take it off. That's it. Just take this off. And there's a bolt up here. There's a bolt up here. This bolt, you put a pry bar on top of this brace, triangular brace, and you hold it down, and it'll undo that bolt. Alright. Now, like I said, there's a bolt here, and 2 bolts on the other side. See 2 bolts here. 1 bolt there. Bad camera angle, sorry. There you go. A bolt there and a bolt in there. Alright. Don't do that. This is a junk car, so I don't care. Anyway, there's a bolt in here and a bolt over there. So I'm going to take those 2 bolts out now. And those are 16mm headed bolts. This is very interesting doing this with one hand. Alright. Hope you guys can see that, what I'm doing there. So there goes 1. And the other down here. Now make sure you have somebody on the side holding the gearbox now, okay? Take that one off. And 1 more on the other side. Then I'll show you how to take the Pitman arm off and reinstall it. Please bear with me here. I'll just let you guys get in there. Take the top one off. You know something? While I'm doing this, I'm just gonna grab it from the other side with my other hand. Alright, it's out. Now I'm gonna show you how to work with the Pitman on there. Make sure when you do this though, when you take it back out. Hold on a second. Now make sure sorry about that mirror guns leaking. I just gotta tighten that down a little bit. Alright. Now what you need here, underneath here where you took the lines off, make sure you put some plastic, like you can put like a rubber glove in here so it won't leak out the transmission, the power steering fluid. Alright. There's a bolt on top here. You can see that. That bolt is a 32mm. So you put a 32mm socket on it. And tap that in. You can actually do this in the car. Some people say you can't do it in the car, but you can with regular tools. I'm using an air gun, but you don't have to. So let me just take that off real quick. That came off. There goes the big bad boy right there. Okay, this is where you use this fancy Pitman arm tool. You can go to Pep Boys or AutoZone or Napa, wherever you're at. It's like 20 bucks I think to get one of these. It's real cheap. It's a Pitman arm puller. Right. Now there's a ridge in here between the Pitman arm and the steering gearbox. And that's where the bottom lips go. So you just want to slide it in there. And on top is a 3/4 inch bolt. And what happens is this bolt goes down and this pulls up. So you can see that right there. You just tighten that down. Like so. I'll bring you guys up in a second so I can show you a different angle on this. And now you're tightening it down. So that's what it looks like. Hold on a second. It's a different angle on this. So you tighten this down and it's going to pull the Pitman arm right off the shaft. So I'll do this for you guys right now. Came right off. Alright? So you have a washer. Make sure you put the washer back on when you install it. And like I said, you count the number of turns. You can count the number of turns on the floor over here like this, and just turn this with a vice grip, or do it like I showed you before on the car. And make sure this points towards the driver when you put it back in. Okay? And when you reinstall this Pitman arm, it's the reversal of installing it, of pulling it out. You're gonna see in here there's keyways that it goes into. There's slats in here that this goes into. There you go. There's slots in here that this goes into. There's 4 keyways in here, right? So it only goes in one way. You line up the keyways like that, like that. Then you put the washer on. Here it is. You put the washer on, and you put the bolt, and you just tighten it down. And that's it. You put it back on the way I told you. Remember, over here there's a flat spot. Make with the flat spot up there. And that's all she wrote on this. So, if you have any questions, comments, you can put it down below. Please subscribe to my channel. It's free to subscribe and you'll be updated on future projects. And also like me. Just check the box underneath to like me. It's free to like me. There's plenty of me to go around. Thanks for watching and ta-ta.